Mark, you're in Saudi Arabia with the latest in journalistic technology, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some very exciting little gadgets. Air conditioning that goes on your belt and blows up your shirt and keeps you cool.
Mark Stone, when other reporters go to Tenerife, you go to 11 Reef.
I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm James Matthews. It's Wednesday, the 14th of May, day 114 of Trump's presidency. And there's been a right royal love-in, the day that MBS met DJT. We'll give you the full SP.
And the jewel in the crown of all that, a $600 billion deal. We will explain.
To Riyadh first, and the meeting of the President and the Prince, the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. It was the last word in lavish. They rolled out the lavender carpet for Donald Trump, not red in Saudi Arabia. They ditched that a few years ago. Lavender is the colour of the wild flowers in the desert, a symbol of generosity, apparently. But the whole thing reeked of money, power, and influence. Speaking of which, how are you, Mark?
Very good, James. I'm very well. I'm actually quite tired. It's been a very, very long day. I'm not looking for any sympathy, but it has been a long one. Getting on one bus to get on another bus to go into one building to come out of another building to eventually arrive at the building where Donald Trump arrived at for the big set piece Tuesday morning, the signing of a $600 billion deal on everything from energy to sport. What they're claiming is the biggest defense sales agreement in history.
Mark, the detail of what's in these deals seems to be quite minimal, but the White House says they'll channel substantial capital, their words, into American industry and create more jobs for Americans. It's broad brush stuff, seems to me to have been cobbled together quickly so that Trump's visit can be billed as this big, glamorous, successful event that has delivered.
Yeah, sort of got the sense as I was reading through the detail of these deals that it's kind of the tip of a deal that still needs to be drilled down on. Memorandums of understanding. Those are the phrases going around, which gives you an idea that actually they haven't got much depth to them yet. But that will all come. The $600 billion over 4 years of Saudi investment into America. If people back in America are scratching their heads, wondering what their president is doing in a faraway land that they have no affiliation with, well, his answer is getting a bit of Saudi money to invest back into America. That's his reason for being here. But you're right. I mean, lavish is what it was from beginning to end. The palace that we were in kind of resembled the Palace of Versailles, but of course it was not built many years ago. It was built in 1999. A really visceral symbol of how quickly Saudi Arabia has transformed in recent years and how confident it now feels as a significant regional player geopolitically and increasingly a global player in terms of commerce. I had a really interesting evening on Monday night. Everything happens at night here because it's too hot in the day. And we went to a shisha bar round the corner and we drank mocktails. No cocktails here, of course, but mocktails in a shisha bar. And we got chatting to a young Saudi man who told me about his father, who's now in his 60s. And in his father's lifetime, his father's gone from being a child born in a desert tent, an upbringing in a dusty town, his 30s as a mujahideen fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan, 40s and 50s in a deeply conservative Riyadh. And now his father is in his 60s, watching wide-eyed the change supercharged
Yeah.
in recent years. I mean, really, the acceleration of change has been so quick. I guess now best reflected in the social transformation. Women, unveiled, can now drive. And here, James, make no mistake, that is a profound leap forward for this country. Of course, through a Western lens, there is a way to go. Homosexuality is still illegal here, but things have changed, and the Western nations and Western companies, they are back. Political expedience has moved world leaders and business leaders beyond all the controversy, and they are flocking back in with Donald Trump in front.
Nobody's doubting the right of a president to drum up business for the country, but it is the case that in the countries that Donald Trump's visiting this week, the Trump organization has been making big money deals, and the discussion here is about a confluence and a conflict of interests, national versus his own private interest. The White House insists that he is acting in the best interests of the country. But, whatever the cash flow, it is indeed flowing. The guest list, as you well know, told us that Elon Musk front and center alongside the bosses of US companies like Uber, Amazon, Coca-Cola. The head of FIFA was there, Gianni Infantino, the man that Trump
He
insists on calling Johnny.
he's always there. He's wherever Trump goes. He follows him around, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he's Mr. World Cup, and of course, that's coming to the States next year. So
Yeah.
big pals, big money being made there as well. The Crown Prince, and I wonder what you thought about this, Mark. He gave this introductory speech, seemed a bit nervous, I thought, certainly listening to the translator. He was talking very quickly. It sounded like a man reading one of these, these medical disclaimers at the end of an advert. Um, but, for all his speed, he was full of praise for Trump and for his first few months in office. And that love in it continued when Trump took to the stage with, of course, that tune, by
Yeah.
Lee Greenwood, yeah?
Yeah, that was weird. That again, it was very strange to hear that tune blasting out in Riyadh. I think bemusement a little bit from the audience. They didn't know they'd signed up for a MAGA rally.
Yeah,
Um,
God
but
bless the USA and Donald Trump sort of standing there in front of the crowd.
yeah, exactly. But when the speech got going, they loved what they heard. They did need to sit through the public service announcement first. Trump reminding everyone of his signature policy success, cutting immigration. And I spotted Secretary of State Marco Rubio looking a little weary at that point. I think he's heard that speech quite a few times.
Well, the question is, Mark, did he yawn? The pictures I saw, and listen, we checked it several times, looked like he was stifling a yawn to me when the camera cut to the crowd. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get the VAR on that
Uh,
one and work it
uh,
out.
yeah, well, I tell you, you didn't have to check the monitor to know that Trump is clearly a big fan of his host, the Crown Prince.
And most importantly, for the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right? I'm not going to take that on. No, Mohammed, I'm not going to take that on. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing if I made that full statement? But I will not do it. You're hotter. At least as long as I'm up here, you're hotter.
It was a love-in all round. But, James, quite quickly, I thought it became a pretty remarkable speech. We've wondered, haven't we, over the past few days, what the dominant story would be of this
Yeah.
week. Would it be Ukraine? Would it be Gaza? Would it be something else? What would the theme be? I didn't think that the story today would be a shifting tone from the president. But I think today that is what we got, because he seemed to be offering an America that's open for business on the economic and on the political track. Despite all the tariffs, the upending of the world order that we've seen over the past few months, we've talked about so much, the message from the speech seemed to be that America is ready to build bridges, to put disagreements to one side with all the countries in the region, including the likes of Syria, Yemen, even Iran.
Yeah.
Effectively, it was kind of get in line. Don't mess with us. Don't interfere with our interests. But if you want to work with us, let's do it for all our benefit. And I kind of got the sense that he was talking to Iran when he was surrounding himself by this opulence and by these Arab leaders, and saying to Iran, "You like what you see here? You want a bit of this? Well, play ball, and you can have it."
Trump's embrace of this place reflects its influence, doesn't it, and what it can do for him. He spoke in that speech once again about his greatest hope is to be a peacemaker and unifier. He recognizes the power that Saudi Arabia has as a player in the region and far beyond, and he knows the heft that that can bring to his peace efforts in the Middle East and probably in Ukraine. There's also the business of the Abraham Accords, normalized relations between some Arab states and Israel. We've spoken about how that's his prize to bring Saudi Arabia to that table. In this speech, he called it his fervent hope. Very important, he said, for the future of the Middle East. But he did say to his hosts that he understood they had their own time scale on that. And of course, the time will never be right for the Saudis as long as there are Israeli troops in Gaza.
Yeah, and there's the leverage that the Saudis have. They know that Trump wants them to sign the normalization deal, so they can put pressure on him, to put pressure on Netanyahu to sort out the problem in Gaza, to stop what's going on one way or another. In terms of Gaza, only a very brief mention of it in Donald Trump's speech. But in Israel, you can be in no doubt that Netanyahu would have been listening to every word of it. As Thomas Friedman said in the New York Times this week, Netanyahu has a choice, Rafah or Riyadh. The argument is that Israel's long-term interests are in integrating with the region. The longer that Israel hammers Gaza, the harder that will be. So I think, in a sense, this was a message for Iran, possibly a message for Israel as well. Let's all get together. Let's all work on this together. From Trump, that was quite a remarkable speech.
Yeah, and in terms of the announcements he had to make, he probably saved his biggest for last. Yeah, on Syria, he said the US would lift sanctions.
Yeah, we weren't expecting that to happen necessarily today. There was an expectation that at some point it would be on the cards, but to announce it in this moment, it got a standing ovation in the room. Trump said that the decision had been made after consulting with Mohammed bin Salman and with Turkey's president as well. Oh, what I do for the Crown Prince, Trump said. But make no mistake, it is a big move. The US has had sanctions on Syria, of course, ruled by the Assad dynasty for so many decades. It has had sanctions on Syria for a very long time. Now he says he will lift them to give Syria, as he says, a chance at greatness. There's one other thing on that, James, that I think is going to be really interesting to look out for in the day ahead. The White House has confirmed that Donald Trump will, quote, say hello to the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, before he leaves Saudi Arabia. Now, why is this significant? Well, remember, this is the man who less than 6 months ago ended the 14-year civil war in Syria by overthrowing Bashar al-Assad. The really interesting thing for me is that the new Syrian president is also a man who was not all that long ago a jihadi fighter. He was aligned to al-Qaeda. He fought the Americans in Iraq. He was jailed by the Americans in Iraq. And yet now he is about to shake hands, we think, or at least say hello to Donald Trump. What a remarkable turnaround that is. And I think perhaps a bit of a message as well, because it's kind of Donald Trump's theme here. If you come in from the cold, if you play ball, then I can be your friend and you can reap the rewards of America.
Yeah, remarkable stuff indeed. Trump waves goodbye to Saudi Arabia on Wednesday, Mark. He heads to the next stop on his Gulf tour, Qatar, and you're going with him, yeah?
I am indeed. In fact, it's just coming up to 1 a.m. here, James, and at 5 a.m. I'm getting up to catch the plane with the White House teams from here to Qatar.
We're working you too hard. Hope
No,
you're getting
never.
a lanyard out of this.
Oh, yeah, quite a few.
Okay, away from Saudi Arabia, there's more on the will they, won't they question surrounding a meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. It's looking more won't than will, I have to tell you. On Sunday, you'll remember Zelensky called on Putin to meet him in Istanbul on Thursday. Trump had said he was thinking of attending the talks if they went ahead. Well, a couple of things on Tuesday. We had Zelensky trolling Putin, suggesting he's scared of direct talks with me. Then we had the White House saying they'd be sending officials for talks, Secretary of State Marco Rubio among them, but Donald Trump won't be making the trip.
Yeah, the White House sounded pretty emphatic, saying President Trump will not be traveling to Turkey this week. That is true now, but let's see where we are on Thursday. As we've been saying, I still think it's unlikely, but if Putin does turn up, every chance Trump will too.
I'm surprised, Mark, it's taken the Americans this long to get a read seemingly on where Putin is with regard to this meeting. And I think it does question the wisdom of Trump's diplomacy in terms of the broader picture. If there was a possibility Putin wasn't going to play ball, that is the kind of thing you assume would have been picked up through back channels with the Russians. And that would have avoided a situation where now Trump, I think, is undermined. He's stuck his neck out very publicly on this initiative. And yet Putin isn't budging. Is he thinking, Putin, if he sits tight America will wash its hands of Ukraine? Or is he actually daring Trump to up the ante and see where it goes after that? Either way, I think, for the peacemaker president, this isn't peace. I think it diminishes Trump in influence and in authority. So profound, it's either knocked you into submission or sent you to sleep.
No, it was. I was just looking at what the next line was.
You're stunned. I too am quite stunned by that.
Now then, James, changing gear, and before we go, I'm wondering where Martha is.
Yeah, aren't we all?
She's not on holiday again, is she?
As if, Martha, if you're listening, sorry. You're in New York. We
Yes,
know,
she is.
working extremely hard because we've been
Yes.
watching it. You're covering the trial of Sean Diddy Coombs. We're not covering that on the podcast, however, because we're all about the Donald Trump here. But Martha, her reporting, of course, is well worth checking out on all Sky News platforms.
Poor Martha. She can't defend herself when we're ribbing her like this.
Yeah, sorry, Martha. We'll see you soon enough back on the podcast. Mark, you have a lanyard update, do you?
I do. If you were all listening yesterday, we were talking about lanyards. Well, I had a very amusing lanyard moment this morning because when I arrived at the massive opulent convention center, we were all hustled into a back room to receive our lanyards, and there was a load of Saudi officials with a massive pile of lanyards. Everyone got given one except me because my one appeared to have got lost. But it gets funnier because the very, very helpful Saudi official, he just grabbed any old lanyard that belonged to some random guy and said, "Take this." And I said, "But it doesn't look anything like me, and my name's not Justin Gomez." And he said, he said, "Doesn't matter, just take it." So I took it, and then I went up to the Saudi Royal Guard to try and get through the inner cordon. And the guy looked at me and he held the pass up next to my face, and he said, "La, no, this is not you." And then luckily the official who gave me the lanyard said, "Just go through." So I managed to. So today, for one day only, I was Justin Gomez, not Mark Stone.
I love it. Well, that's it for today. But as always, join me and Justin Gomez tomorrow on Trump 100. And do get in touch with us. The email is trump100@sky.uk.
And if you're listening, Justin, thanks for letting me borrow your pass. Come and join us on the podcast. Remember, you can follow wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Trump 100 or, of course, on the Sky News app. See you tomorrow from Doha.
See you, Justin.